Okay, hey, and welcome to a special one-off sort of IC82 vid. This is in response to lots of questions I get coming into the channel about what do you do with a locomotive you've just bought. It's not brand new, but it's not dead old either. It's kind of like second-hand, it's been ran a bit, but it's not been ran for a while. And before you put it on your layout and you want to run it, it needs a bit of a service, a bit of a tune-up basically, some TLC. Well, we've got Craig here, who is our chief engineer, the top man, top technician at CrewWorks for IC82, and he is going to guide you through the process. So what's the locomotive we've got today, Craig?
Well, today we've got this B12 in LNER livery that was recently acquired from S&J Models at a bargain price, but as you can see there's no box. It's just as is, and the locomotive has been run a little bit, but has otherwise been left neglected for quite a while.
Yes. So she needs a good service, a good bit of TLC before she runs on the layout.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the equipment we need first?
Well, first of all, we need somewhere to be able to work, preferably well lit. So we've got a nice craft mat here, the kind of thing you'd pick up from somewhere like Hobbycraft or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a nice desk lamp, which allows us to see nice and clearly, but obviously you could just as easily do it in a well lit room.
Yep.
We've got our rolling road, which again isn't essential. You could just as easily go and do the testing on the real track, but we find that having the rolling road here makes it a lot easier because you don't have to keep getting up and going away.
Now, a lot of people ask questions about the rolling road. There seems to be some sort of myth, some sort of rumour that it's not DCC compatible. Is that true?
Well, all of Hornby's packaging and all of Hornby's material constantly list it as being compatible with their 12-volt DC and their real steam.
The live steam.
Their live steam system. But they never mention DCC. But we've got a DCC controller plugged into it now, and we've never had a single problem.
No. So it is DCC compatible, basically. Yep. Good. Okay, so what else do we need?
Right, well, we've got various other bits of cleaning equipment and maintenance equipment. So we've got a normal paintbrush, completely unused, but its nice soft bristles make it really useful for dusting and cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a servicing cradle. So this is the Pico foam cradle that you can use to hold your locomotive upside down while getting to work on it with keeping your hands free. I've got a little pot of slightly warm water. It's got a couple of drops of washing up liquid in it to be able to help us clean off any little marks, and a couple of cotton wool buds to be able to help us do that.
Okay.
I've also got different types of lubricant. So I've got a couple of different types of oil that we'll go through and explain in a little while to help us lubricate all the moving parts. I've got our small artist's mixing pallet. Here we go again, aren't we? A mixing pallet for small... No, a small-sized...
An artist's small mixing pallet.
I don't think I'll ever get that one right.
No.
No. But we've got that anyway. But it's our little container to be able to put things like our oil and stuff into to make it easy to get to. Again, not essential, but just a nice little piece of kit we picked up from an art store.
Okay.
I've got a needle, which again I'll explain in a bit more detail later on, but to help us with the oiling.
Mm-hmm.
And then last, but by no means least, in terms of the cleaning stuff, we've got different types of equipment to be able to help clean the wheels. So we've got some Track Magic and some cleaning fluid from the Dapol cleaner and the Pico track cleaning equipment as well, which we'll go through in a little while.
It's wheel cleaning equipment, not track cleaning equipment.
Sorry, wheel cleaning equipment, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the most important thing, we've got our cup of tea and a bourbon biscuit, just to keep us fueled up while we're going.
Yes, I don't think you can survive without those, can you?
No.
No. Right. Okay. Okay, the Loco's out of the bag. Not the cat, the Loco. And there she is, the beautiful LNER liveried B12. Apple green, I think it is. So what are you going to do first, Craig?
Well, first of all, we're going to just give it a light dusting and cleaning. Now, it's a little deceptive because the locomotive itself has actually been weathered.
Oh, right.
So there is some weathering across the top here, some dark staining, and if I turn it around this way, you can just see there's some staining there from one of the valves.
Oh yes.
And so it's obviously important to make sure that we don't try and remove the weathering.
No.
But having been sat around for a while, there is quite a lot of dust and stuff collected on it. So this paintbrush is really easy to help remove it. As I said before, completely unused. So the bristles are nice and soft, which means that it's really easy to get into all the nooks and crannies around all the different locomotives, particularly these steam locomotives, and give it a nice dusting. And because they're so soft, it means that you can apply a fair bit of force and it won't break off any of those little tiny details.
So you're going to use a little bit of detergent?
Yeah, as I said, obviously this weathering means that some of this staining is deliberate, but I don't know whether the camera will really be able to pick up on some of these, but there are little smudges in a few areas. There's one there on that side.
Zooming in really carefully.
I don't know whether you'll be able to see it, but it's just a tiny little smudge, possibly from the oil from someone's fingers, depending on who's handled it and how they've handled it. And so we found that just a little tiny pot of slightly warm water, not hot obviously, you need to be careful we don't damage any of the locomotive and its livery, and a couple of tiny drops of washing up liquid in it just to give it a little bit of detergent power, and then onto a cotton wool bud, and then you can just very gently rub the area affected, and then with the other end of the cotton wool bud you can use that to help dry it off.
Excellent.
And then obviously leave that just to air dry a little bit longer, and that smudge has gone.
Okay, so cleaning out of the way, I guess the next stage is oiling.
Yeah, obviously what we're going to move on to after this is cleaning the wheels, and that will require the wheel to rotate round. So I find that doing the oiling now means that cleaning process of the wheels afterwards actually gives the oil time to embed and get around all the different parts.
Okay, so which are the two most popular methods of oiling, and what are you going to show us today?
Well, the one that we've sort of shown in the past and used for a long time, as you can tell because the bottle's nearly empty, is this Pico Power Lube.
Okay.
It's basically a very light oil that's perfect for lubricating these small moving parts. The only problem with this is that the bottle it comes in and the sort of dispensing cap at the end means that if you just tried to use that straight from the bottle, you'd get big drops of oil.
Yes, way too much.
Which then have a tendency to get all over the track and cause slippage and all kinds of major problems.
Nightmare.
So in the past, what we've done is use our artist's small mixing palette.
Correct.
Yeah. And just put a tiny drop or two of oil into the bottle of one of those containers, and then using a normal pin or needle, you can just dab it into the oil, and it leaves just the tiniest little drop on the end that you can then touch in the appropriate places.
Okay.
So that is a method that's sort of seen us through for quite a few years now.
Yes.
But recently we discovered this.
By Gauge Master.
Yes. So it's a lubrication pen. So very much like a pen, it's got a lid on one end and even a little thing so you can carry it around in your top pocket for some reason.
Right.
But if we then take it off, you've got a little rubber cap then which stops all the oil leaking out. But if I take that off as well, you can see that underneath we've got a very fine...
It's very fine. It's hard to get the camera to focus on that actually, it's so fine.
It's a very fine needle point. Which, and you can probably just see a little drop of oil. Oh, there you go, a little bubble.
It's gone.
A little bubble of oil had crept through. But if I tip it up a little bit, there you go.
Oh yes.
You can see a very fine droplet of oil can form at the end. And so this is actually really easy to get straight into the little points on the locomotive and apply the oil directly.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's get this B12 all lubricated up then.
Okay. Well, for this we're going to use the foam servicing cradle, which will mean it can hold the locomotive upside down and keep our hands free.
Yep.
Take the tender out of the way for the moment, and then just take the locomotive, turn her upside down, and then by carefully spreading the foam, it'll grip nice and snug and keep her upside down.
Yep.
And then in terms of where we need to apply the oil, if you look at a lot of the modern instructions, particularly the Hornby brochures,
Yeah.
they actually give you a nice diagram with little red circles indicating where the oil needs to be placed. But as a general rule of thumb, and for those older ones that don't have manuals, you're looking to apply a little drop of oil wherever there is a moving part in contact with another. So, for example, all along here, we've got the connecting rods that obviously make contact with the wheels. On the rear of the wheel, where it meets the chassis, you've obviously got the axle point there. And here, we've got the little cog, so if I just spin it around slightly. In this model here, we've got the driving cog that transfers the power from the motor. So obviously, again, that makes contact and needs a little lubrication.
Yeah, okay.
What you don't want to do is get any oil actually on the surface of the wheel. Any oil that makes contact here will obviously cause the wheel to slip and will transfer that oil all the way around your layout, causing you no end of problems for your other locomotives that will pick it up as well.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with those connecting rods. If I take the oil pen, all we need to do is apply a tiny drop of oil to each of these points. So without really squeezing it, gravity does most of what you need. Just touch the point where it connects with the wheel, and that's it done. So I'll do the same on the other side. Just letting gravity feed the oil. That's it. Tiny drop on each point. Then we need to try and put some just behind the wheel where the axle meets the chassis. Now this bit's a little bit more fiddly because we've also only got a tiny little gap to get through. So I'm just going to drop my pen down through the gap. I don't know if you can quite see this. And make contact with the axle, and that's it done. So I need to do that with the other wheels as well. Depending on the model, some of them are easier than others because of where the pickups are or some of the other parts of the body. But there's usually a way where you can just slip the little needle through and make contact with the axle to drop a little bit of oil on. The cog here in the middle that drives the whole locomotive, you can actually see there's still some residue of lubricant that's still there. But I'm just going to add a couple of drops of oil as well, just to freshen that up, and as that cog rotates round, it'll pass that oil around the system and make sure everything's nice and coated. And finally, although they don't necessarily have anything to do with the driving, I am still going to add a little drop to the axle of this front bogie, this front truck, so that the whole locomotive moves nice and smoothly.
Okay, so the B12 has been cleaned, it's been dusted, it's been lubricated. Now we need to put it on the rolling road and actually get her moving.
Yeah, because what we want to do now is just get those wheels turning round and spreading that oil around all the different components to make sure they're really well lubricated all the way round. So we've already preset the moving wheels on the rolling road so that it fits this locomotive perfectly. And so if we just carefully place it on, obviously we want the moving wheels, the driving wheels, to be on these rollers here so that they can turn without moving the locomotive forwards and backwards, and the front truck can just sit on this piece of fixed track because that doesn't actually rotate.
So what number is this locomotive?
Well, we don't know, because this locomotive was actually bought with a DCC decoder already fitted. We don't actually know what number it is. So the first thing we need to do is reprogram it, and we'll just give it the default address of number 3 just so we can test it and get it working. There we go, slight jump.
Yeah, panning around to the locomotive now.
Okay.
There she is.
And so if we give her a little bit of juice,
yeah,
she moves.
She's going.
Now I'm just going to leave her going round nice and slowly for now, just so that oil that we've just applied can spread around as the wheels turn. and obviously we don't know how long it's been since she actually has run, so just starting her off gently will mean the motor doesn't get too much of a shock.
That's going really smoothly though.
It is.
I mean, this is the first time we've actually seen it run, full stop, so it's a big relief it does actually work. So
now,
how long should we let it do this?
Only for a couple of minutes, as I say, just to get that oil spread around. A couple of minutes one direction, a couple of minutes the other direction.
And so if you didn't have a rolling road, what would you be doing right now?
Well, instead we would have taken it off to our layout, whether that's just one of the loops or some kind of big attic layout, whatever you've got, and letting it run up and down the track. Again, a couple of minutes slowly in one direction, and then reverse it in a couple of minutes in the other.
Okay, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but what would you do, and I get asked this a lot, what would you do if you didn't have a rolling road and you didn't have a loop layout? You know, you basically had an end-to-end, maybe a shunting layout or something like that.
Well, what would you do? Because in this case, all we're trying to do is just get the oil to be spread around, you could easily get the same effect by just running her forwards and backwards along the full length of your end-to-end layout, as far as she can go, and just keep doing that until you come to sort of a few minutes in total. So it's not going to be quite the same effect, but it should still be enough to get those wheels rotating all the way round and make sure the oil is nice and spread around. Okay, so I'll just stop her and put her into reverse.
So same thing, just a few minutes in this direction.
Yeah, just a few minutes in this direction, just to make sure that oil is making contact with all the moving parts.
Okay, so she's had a bit of a run in forwards, she's had a bit of a run in backwards, and the oil has got around all the components. So what next?
Well, next we now need to have a look at her wheels and try and clean them up. Again, I'm not sure if the camera would be able to pick anything up, but there is a little bit of grime and a little bit of wear on the wheels, so she clearly has been run.
Yes, I can just about make that out.
And so we just need to make sure that those wheels are nice and clean so she's getting the best electrical pickup she possibly can.
Okay.
Now, if I bring the cradle back in and position her in there again. Now, when cleaning the wheels, there are a couple of options depending on how dirty they are. The first option is using something like Track Magic or the fluid from the Dapol cleaning train.
Yeah.
Both of those are obviously designed to be able to clean the grime and the muck off the track, but they will work in exactly the same way for the wheels. They're made of the same material and they'll be able to clean off the same kind of grime.
Okay.
So if your locomotive is just needing a little bit of a spruce up, then applying one of those liquids in the same way you would to the track would probably be enough to give them a bit of a clean. However, if they're a little bit more dirty, then you may need to move on and actually use something like this, which is the Pico wheel cleaner. And I think there is a new version out similar by Gauge Master that does a similar kind of thing. Now these are more abrasive. As you can see, that's a proper metal brush, so they are more abrasive and can actually scratch the wheel slightly, which, depending on your point of view, might actually be a negative thing or a positive thing. But for us, we find that it gives a really nice clean finish to the wheels, and even if it means we have to clean them a little bit more often, it's worth it. Now, to use one of these, you have two pieces of wire that go to bare ends. So those bare ends need to connect up to your controller to be able to pass the power through these as you would normally pass to the track. Now, because we're using the rolling road, we're actually going to cheat a little bit and connect them up via the rolling road. So if I unscrew one of these here, I can then put the wire and trap it between, tighten it back up, and that's now making electrical contact. Okay, so there we go. I've now attached one wire to each side so that I can use that to make an electrical circuit. Okay. What I need to do now is use these two metal pieces to be able to make contact on either side of the locomotive so that it's as if it is running on the piece of track. So if I preset my controller so that there's some power going through the two pieces, touch one side and then the other, and the wheels will start to move.
Might be a little bit jiggity because the power will come and go, obviously, depending on the level of contact you've got.
That's it. I mean, it's on this side, the wire brush is passing through lots of little tiny fine hairs, so sometimes it can lose contact, and particularly with it being DCC, as soon as it loses contact for a second, it'll cut dead. So it may be a little jumpy, but it'll still work in exactly the same way. So all you need is the wheels to turn and use a slight brushing motion to make sure that all that grime and dirt is lifted away. Okay, and then you repeat the same process on the other side so that all of the wheels have been cleaned.
So obviously this equipment works with driving wheels that are designed to pick up, but what about the front bogie there? What about that front truck? Those four wheels that aren't designed to pick up and definitely don't have any motor connected to them.
And you obviously get the same thing in a lot of DMUs as well, where there's a motor only at one end.
Yeah.
With those ones, unfortunately, you have to use a bit of manual power. So you can still do the same technique, hold the brush on the wheel, a slight bit of pressure,
Yep.
but rather than having the motor turn it round, you need to do it on the other side.
You've got to do it yourself.
Yeah. If that's not possible, because obviously some of the bogies on DMUs and things like that can make it a bit hard to get to turn the wheel, then you sometimes just have to do it by holding the other side still, giving it a brush, then turn it over, hold it still, give it a brush, and do it that way instead.
And I suppose in the most extreme of cases, you're not really left with any choice but to take the wheels off and clean them that way.
Yeah, that's the other option. Obviously you can detach all the bogie and try and remove the wheels and do them manually that way. But we've never really had to do that yet. Just doing it this way seems to clean them sufficiently.
Okay.
Okay, so that's pretty much done and ready to go. The one thing we haven't done through any of this particular video is actually open her up and carry out any maintenance on the mechanism on the inside. Now, there's several reasons we haven't done that. Firstly, this particular locomotive isn't that old, so there isn't really the chance that she will have been sat around so long that the motor will have seized up or needs any attention inside. The other issue is that as we've already got a B12 from the Anglian set, we've actually already seen inside and we know what kind of motor she's got. And so that particular motor connects directly to that cog on the base, and so the oil we've put there will already have transferred round and covered everything that it really needs to be. Some locomotives, particularly things like DMUs that use ring-field motors, would benefit from being opened up because there are lots of cogs on the motors that could benefit from a little bit of oiling as well. So it is a case of what kind of locomotive it is you're dealing with as to whether you also need to delve inside. The only last thing to talk about is her tender. Now, in this instance, the tender is not used for conducting any electricity, so she's just got a basic hole that attaches to a pin, and all of the wheels are plastic. So in this instance, all we really need to do with this is go back to our pot of water with a mild detergent and use the cotton wool bud to be able to clean any of the grime off the wheels and make sure that they're nice and dust and dirt free. The only reason we're doing that is to make sure that these wheels then don't carry that dirt all around the track and make it worse for all the other locomotives. If she was a tender that did conduct electricity, then you'd conduct exactly the same maintenance as we've just done to the locomotive to make sure that she was carrying as much power as she could. And so, she's now ready to go onto the track.
Brilliant.